Well, speaking of big headlines, 1 in 6 of every American may be affected by the Charter Communications purchase, if it happens, of Time Warner Cable. So regulatory pressure encouraged, let's say, Comcast to drop its bid for Time Warner Cable. This newly combined Charter entity would have nearly 23 million customers. That would be second to Comcast's 27 million. Porter Bibb is here from Mediatech Capital Partners. Joe Flint, Gautham, Nagesh joining us from the Wall Street Journal. Porter, I want to start with you first, right beside me here in New York. So Charter's deal, we have to assume, with Time Warner Cable, it seems like much more likely to get regulatory approval, or at least lack of a block, right, than the other.
There's no guarantee, but Tom Wheeler, the chairman of the FCC, did call both Rob Marcus and John Malone last week and said, just because we didn't let the Comcast deal go through doesn't mean that we won't let your deal go through. There are going to be concessions that Charter's going to have to make, but I think this deal will close. Okay, and of course, one of the moving parts in this, and I want to get down to D.C. to the Wall Street Journal reporters, is that if this does go through, it's actually going to create a pretty big competitor for Comcast. So, Joe, I know you've been looking at just the possibilities, what this does to big media. What is your take?
Well, with regards to a competitor to Comcast, of course, they don't necessarily compete head-to-head, but nonetheless, they will be seen as an alternative for the industry in the way that broadband is delivered, the way of relationships between programmers and distributors. In that sense, they would be a rival. In that sense, I think a lot of folks in the industry that were directly opposed to Comcast merging with Time Warner Cable will more quietly favor this one. I don't think any Netflix is going to come out and cheer this. It's not in their interest, but I don't know if they would necessarily be so active in trying to block it as they were with Comcast, Time Warner Cable.
Gautham, since you're in D.C., what do you think these companies are going to have to give up if you agree with Porter?
I think that, yes, it is more likely than the Comcast deal to get through. There are no guarantees, but the kinds of people who were very vocal in their opposition to the Comcast-Time Warner deal are at least less vocal in their concern about this deal. We'll have to see how that plays out. In terms of conditions, one of the big ones will be the open internet rules, which are the net neutrality rules passed by the FCC. Those are facing a legal challenge. Getting a Charter Time Warner Cable combined entity to agree to those rules would be a big victory for the FCC. And also there's the whole over-the-top video, online video providers, people like Netflix. Any sort of protection that can be put in place to ensure that the new company wouldn't do anything to stifle that market as it grows would be a big regulatory coup for the FCC.
Gautham, I'm going to pick up right where you left off. So, Porter, of course, he just named Netflix. There's Amazon. There's Verizon buying AOL. So this over-the-top, this streaming presence, it's changing the game for everybody.
Well, give Charter a lot of credit, because the guy who really built the cable industry, John Malone, is as smart as anybody, and he recognizes that cable is a wasting asset, a huge iceberg that is slowly giving away to broadband. And he's got to oversee the consolidation and the savings that he can put together by having created this mega company. The 800-pound gorilla in the room, Deirdre, is Google.
Yep.
And nobody's paying attention in the cable business right now to what Google is doing with high-speed Wi-Fi.
Although I think, honestly, Porter, behind closed doors, most CEOs are quite worried about Google. Bet. It's just that, as you say, this kind of deafening silence.
That's right.
If we don't say it, maybe it won't be there.
They're
kind
focused
like
right now on continuing to extract retransmission fees to get those down lower and lower and lower from the networks and the other content providers. But the shift to broadband and to wireless is on.
So, Joe, since you're out on the West Coast with all the creatives, or at least to some of them, what does this mean as far as cost of content? How does this boil down? What does it mean for Amazon? What does it mean for Netflix?
Well, there's a couple different things out here. And first, since I am in Los Angeles, what it could mean for Dodger fans is that a few more of them will get to see the games. because Charter is one of the distributors not carrying the Dodger channel out here that Time Warner Cable is a partner in with the team. So we'll see what happens. With regards to programming, it'll be the same battle. I was talking to someone the other day, a very senior cable industry executive, who said right now it's basically a war between programmers and distributors. And John Malone has not been shy about talking about the issues of the rising costs of sports. Ironic now that Charter may soon own one of the most expensive regional sports networks around. But that's another issue. And so far, leverage tends to be with the programmers. The distributors consolidate and consolidate. But if the programmers have the content, as we saw with CBS and Time Warner Cable, about a year and a half ago, the programmers tend to get what they want. So, that'll continue to be an ongoing battle, no matter what pipe it's distributed on. Cable, broadband, however, it's always going to be between the content owners and the distributors.
All right. Well, I thank you all for your time, for your insight. Porter Bibb joining me, Mediatech Partners, Joe Flint joining us from LA, Gautham Nagesh joining us from DC, both from the Wall Street Journal.